Is your computer actually your computer, or is it Microsoft's computer? Because nowadays it's getting really hard to tell the difference. I mean, you go buy a computer, you pay for the license, you set it up, and from the second you turn it on, Microsoft is asking you to do 1,000 things that you didn't ask for. Just sign in with a Microsoft account, back everything up to OneDrive, use Microsoft Edge, try Office 365, enable recommendations, turn on personalized experiences, accept ads in the start menu, and we'll just restart Windows whenever we feel like it. At some point you have to ask, who actually owns this thing? So today, after 35 years in the IT industry, I'm counting down my top 10 things that would not only make Microsoft a trusted company again, but also make Windows amazing. Now, I'm not making this video because I hate Windows. Actually, it's quite the opposite. I use Windows every day. I fix Windows. I teach Windows. I support Windows every day on this channel. And that's exactly why this list matters so much. Windows is still powerful. It still runs the software that most people use on a daily basis. And it's still the default operating system for millions of computers around the world. But somewhere along the way, Microsoft stopped treating Windows like an operating system and more like a billboard, or a subscription funnel, or a telemetry machine, and a gateway to whatever Microsoft wants to sell you next. So today we're going to step into my imagination machine and I'm going to tell you how I'd fix it. Number 10, stop making the start menu a billboard. The start menu should be sacred ground. This is where people go to open their programs, access Windows settings, shut down the computer, search for files, and just get work done. It shouldn't be a place for app promotions, recommendations, sponsored content, or little nudges pushing you towards something you didn't ask for. Microsoft has already added app recommendations into the Windows 11 start menu, and even though they can be disabled in settings, your novice user may not know how to do that. Microsoft also has privacy settings for, quote, recommendations and offers, including advertising ID and personalization options. But here's the problem. A lot of people don't even know that these settings exist. So here's my fix. Windows should have a big, obvious switch during setup. Do you want promotional content? Yes or no? And no should actually mean no. No start menu ads, no lock screen suggestions, no try Microsoft 365, no let's finish setting up your device, no are you sure you don't want to use Microsoft Edge instead, no hey you should use OneDrive, and definitely not let's complete your account. Just let the computer be a computer. Because honestly, if I bought the computer and I'm paying for a license to use that Windows operating system, I should not have to keep fighting that operating system just to access my start menu and the things I do every day. Number 9, make Windows actually respect the user again. Hey look, Windows updates are important. Security patches matter. I'm not saying that they don't. But Windows updates should not feel like a hostage situation. One common complaint is that when Windows restarts at whatever time it feels like it, some people end up losing work that they haven't saved, or best case, their Windows settings are all different than what they were used to. Now, Microsoft does provide what they call active hours for Windows restarting, but those controls are limited and the computer is going to restart anyway if you don't select a specific time. Here's what Microsoft should do. Give people 3 simple options. Download Windows updates automatically and install them. Download them, but let me choose when to install them, or just notify me and I'll take care of my own updates. Ironically, that's the way it used to be back in the day with the older operating systems. You could download those updates, and then when it was convenient for you, you could install them. That's the way it should be. And Microsoft really needs to go back to that. Now, I know what you're going to say, but Scott, if you make these changes, then some people are not going to download updates. And yeah, that's true. But most people will, as long as they get a clear and concise notification about what's actually happening. But here's the bigger problem. When Microsoft forces these updates on you in your Windows operating system, people tend to A, not trust Microsoft, but B, resent and despise these Windows updates. I personally hate them. And then what people do, they go looking for hacks, registry tweaks, or go to a channel like mine to find out how to work around it. Microsoft should make Windows updates feel trustworthy. So imagine this instead, a message on your screen that says, your computer needs an important security update. It's going to take about 12 minutes. Would you like to do it now, tonight at 2 a.m., this weekend, or would you like to choose a date and time to download and install these updates? That's not scary, that's respectful. Microsoft should not treat their Windows users like children. It should warn you clearly, explain things plainly, and then let the owner of the computer decide when and where is best to download and install these updates. Have you found yourself stuck with an unactivated or possibly illegal copy of Windows? Well, thanks to today's sponsor, KeysFam, you can be up and running and 100% legal again in about 10 minutes. An unactivated copy of Windows prevents you from personalizing your computer. You can use code AYCG52 for 52% off Microsoft Windows products, and you can use code AYCG62 for 62% off Microsoft Office products. The purchase process could not be simpler. Simply search for the version of Windows or Office that you're looking for, add it to your cart, make sure you apply your coupon code, and within 10 minutes you'll have an email sent to you with a new product code. Go to your email, select the product key, go to Windows Activation Settings, paste your product key, click Next, then Activate, and you're done. Number 8, give us a real system snapshot tool. This one drives me crazy because Linux users have had this for quite a while. On Linux Mint, for example, the installation guide recommends setting up what's called a time shift so that you can get snapshots before you start the operating system. So if something goes wrong, you can just simply restore from that snapshot. Now, Windows technically does have system restore, but unfortunately, it's turned off by default. I have no idea why. And a lot of times, you can get a malware infection that will delete all your restore points, and sometimes Windows even deletes old restore points. So you might not even have an option to go back to a previous point. There are other options like reset this PC, or Windows backup, or file history. System image backups buried in the control panel somewhere, OneDrive folder backup, and more. But that's a lot for most average novice users. Now, Microsoft's current Windows backup does focus on files, settings, some installed apps, your Wi-Fi info, and migrating stuff to a new PC. And that's useful, but it's not the same as a simple, just roll my computer back to yesterday before all this crap started. Everything was working. That's what I want. What Windows needs is another big obvious button. Create, restore, snapshot. And another button that says restore my computer using snapshot to a previous working state. It's not hidden. It's not half deprecated. Not maybe it'll work if it's enabled. Not your files are here, but your programs are gone. A real system snapshot that literally takes all your stuff and puts it back to when things were working. Simple as that. Before a major Windows update, snapshot. Before a driver update, snapshot. Before installing sketchy printer software, snapshot. And if something breaks, no big deal. One click, go back. That one thing alone would save home users, IT repair shops, and corporate IT departments around the world. It would be such an easy thing to just do one click and go back to work. Number 7 on my list, stop moving things around. Windows has a settings problem. Not because Windows has too many settings. Advanced users, people like me, we love settings. The problem is that Microsoft keeps moving settings, renaming things, splitting things between the new Windows settings and the old control panel, hiding tools, changing menus, and then adding extra clicks for things you've done 1,000 times. One of the more common complaints about the newer Windows operating system is that simple things like right-clicking on your desktop now require extra clicks than it did before. Stop changing it. It worked. So here's how I'd fix it. Create one unified settings button or app that does everything. Not 70% of everything, everything. Device manager, disk management, power options, network adapters, startup apps, default apps, classic sound control panel, BitLocker, backup, printers, advanced Windows updates. And here's the bigger idea. Have 2 modes. Basic mode for everyday users, and then an advanced mode for people who like to get their hands dirty and tweak settings. Basic mode is change your printer, make text bigger, stop apps from opening at startup, back up your files, check your computer health. Advanced mode is check your disk partitions, go to services, go to group policy, go to driver details, power plans, event logs. That will make Windows so much easier for beginning users without insulting advanced users. Right now, Windows kind of feels like a house where the kitchen sink is in the kitchen, but the faucet is in the garage, and the water shutoff valve is somewhere in the house, and you have no idea where, probably behind a panel saying legacy settings. Just organize it and keep it simple. Number 6, build a better software store and package manager. This is where Linux has had an advantage over Windows for years. The software manager is centralized in one place. On many Linux distributions, you can simply open the software manager, and then you can install software from trusted repositories on the internet, update everything from one place, and then remove software cleanly and easily. Now, Microsoft's own documentation says that Winget can discover, install, upgrade, remove, and configure applications on Windows 10, 11 and Server 2025. But here's the issue. Most people don't even know WinGit exists. They do what most people do. They go to Google, they click download X program, then they have to navigate a software repository that's littered with ads and potential malware and hope that they click on the right file just to download a program that they're trying to install. Microsoft should take WinGit and build it into a easy to use, easy to find software package manager. Call it, I don't know, Windows Software Manager. Inside of that, you'll be able to search for apps, install apps, update apps, remove apps, see which apps come from where. Most importantly, avoid fake download sites and potential malware, avoid bundled junk, and you can update third-party apps all from one place. Imagine telling a novice user, don't search the web for software, just open Windows Software Manager and install it safely from there. That would be huge. Unfortunately, it would put a lot of local PC repair shops out of business, but the end user is what's really most important. And for advanced users, keep the command line. If you want to use WinGit, go for it. But for everyday users, give them a safe front door to the dangerous world of software online. Now, this one is big. Make privacy simple, honest, and default should be off as far as what anybody collects about you. Microsoft has official documentation explaining required and optional diagnostic data in Windows, and it does say that users can customize certain privacy settings. They also say optional diagnostic data may include details about your device activity, your websites browsed, and in some crash situations, even the state of memory, which could unintentionally include parts of a file being used when a problem occurred. Now, Microsoft says this data is to help improve Windows, and we've all seen where that's gone. And maybe some of it does. But here's the bigger problem. The average user doesn't understand what data is being collected about them, about their PC, about what they do on their PC, what's required, what's optional, what is tied to their Microsoft account, what's simply used for personalization, and what actually can be turned off. Here's what Microsoft should do during Windows setup. Have multiple options. Do you want to send optional diagnostic data to Microsoft? Yes or no? Do you want personalized recommendations? Yes or no? Do you want apps to use an advertising ID, i.e. a tracker? Yes or no? Do you want activity-based suggestions? Yes or no? Do you want cloud syncing? Yes or no? And every single one of those should have one of those little info buttons that you can click on that will give you a very clear, very concise, very novice-friendly explanation of what it is that Microsoft is asking. Not this. Improve relevant experiences through enhanced personalization telemetry. No. Instead, say this. This allows Microsoft to collect extra information about how to use your computer so Windows and Microsoft services can suggest things to you. That is much clearer. And the default should be privacy first, not second. Because if a Windows feature is truly valuable, people will turn it on. But if the only way to get people to use it is by hiding it, bundling it with something else, or by making the no button hard to find, that kind of tells you everything you need to know. Now, this one's been on my fix list for a while. Number 4, give users real choices during Windows setup. Windows setup has become way too pushy. As soon as you turn a computer on and start setting up your computer, Microsoft wants you to set up a Microsoft account that you may or may not want, or use OneDrive, or use Microsoft Edge as your default browser. Use Bing as your default search engine because it's owned by Microsoft, or use Microsoft 365 because if they get you to download a trial version, you might buy it later. Or do you want to use Copilot AI or sync everything on your computer to the cloud? Now, I'm not saying those services can't be useful to some people, but Microsoft is making it to the point where all of that stuff is thrown at you and installed if you just go and accept all the defaults all the way through and you don't know how to tweak your way around it. That's just really way too much. Being useful for some people is not the same as forcing everyone to do it. Now, Microsoft's Windows 11 specs state that Windows 11 Home and Pro for personal use require internet connectivity and a Microsoft account during initial setup. I have a problem with that right off the bat. Why should you have to have internet to use a computer? Maybe you just do nothing but have Excel spreadsheets running all day long. Why do you have to be connected to the internet? Why do you have to be connected to a Microsoft account? Why not just have the computer do what it's designed to do? Be a computer. All these dependencies on Microsoft drive people crazy, and this is why you're seeing so many people look for alternatives like Mac and Linux because they're tired of the Microsoft telemetry, spying, the whole ecosystem that's forcing things down people's necks. And this is one of the biggest problems I see with normal everyday users. They turn on the computer, they don't have a Microsoft account, so they create one, then they can't remember the password, or they have to have a PIN set up that they won't remember. Then they got to have a verification code sent to an email address that they may not have access to if they have an old Microsoft account. And then on top of everything else, OneDrive installs itself and then starts moving all of your stuff into your secure cloud account. Get your hands off my computer. That's not beginner friendly. That is beginner hostile. Windows setup should ask one clear question. How do you use this computer? And then give you three choices. I want a local account, which again, doesn't have to be on the internet, doesn't have to be tied to Microsoft in any way. It just allows the computer to be a computer. Or if you want to connect to a Microsoft account, give you the choice to log into a Microsoft account, and then you can use OneDrive and all the other stuff that comes with Microsoft. Or if you have a business or school account that's managed by IT department, check that option. That's it. No hidden Shift F10 bypass commands. No unplugging the internet so Microsoft forces you to create a local account. Just let people choose how they're going to use that computer. Don't try to tell them what they need. It just causes more people to hate Microsoft even more. Now, with the advent of Windows 11 being the new standard, this one is one of my top ones. Stop abandoning good hardware too soon. And again, this is one of the reasons why people are so frustrated with Windows 11, which is Microsoft's new flagship operating system. It's because they want you to use Windows 11, but your current computer might not support Windows 11. Ironically, that current computer that works great and it does exactly what you need it to do, but in order to stay updated, you have to update to an operating system that you can't do. And ironically, for people who have a computer that works perfect and they don't need Windows 11, Microsoft has made it to where if you don't use Windows 11, you're no longer going to be supported. So you need to install Windows 11. But I'm sorry, you can't because your hardware doesn't meet the minimum requirements. So now you have to take a chance on using an old computer that works perfect and doesn't cost you anything else to keep it, but you're not going to be updated. But you're not going to be supported, or you now have to go buy a new computer that is supported. That is absolutely ridiculous. I'm not saying security doesn't matter. It absolutely does. But what this might cause, and I've seen this personally, is people end up just getting rid of their computers and it ends up in a landfill because it doesn't meet Microsoft's minimum requirements. And on top of that, now that person who may or may not have it in the budget has to go buy a brand new computer just to stay supported by Microsoft. It's absolutely ridiculous. Microsoft needs to let loose the reins on hardware requirements, or at minimum, explain very clearly what it entails for people who don't have the continued support. And certainly don't make them pay you after they've already paid you for the operating system. Now you want them to pay you again to keep that support on the old hardware. It's crazy. I don't understand why they do it. Now, I do understand that they can't continue to support the operating system forever. I get that. But Windows 10 was just the last operating system. I'm not saying continue to support Windows XP. This was the last one. And you're forcing people to upgrade. You should at least give them a little bit of leeway. Maybe when the next operating system comes out, then tell people you're going to have to upgrade, but give them some time to, I don't know, save up some money to buy a new computer to handle that new operating system. So by doing this, what Microsoft essentially is doing is forcing people into one of several boats. Either find some money that they may or may not have to go buy a new computer, or use a unsupported computer like Windows 10 because they don't have the money or maybe don't want Windows 11. Or even worse, people get on YouTube and go to channels like mine to look at ways to force the computer to run Windows 11, even though Microsoft says it can't. Either way, none of those three options are good. So here's what I think Microsoft should do. They should create a Windows Lite version for those older machines, that legacy hardware that maybe can't run Windows 11, but are still perfectly functioning computers. The fact that Microsoft went out of their way to help you out by not forcing you to buy a new computer is going to go a long way towards the way people think about your company. Now, this Windows Lite version doesn't use AI. It doesn't have gaming optimizations, because if it's an older computer, it probably isn't very much of a gaming machine. It doesn't need Copilot and all that crap. It doesn't use Windows Recall. It doesn't need every possible background service imaginable. It is literally just a scaled down version of Windows. Security updates, browser updates, driver updates, and just basic Windows functionality for those people who literally only do 3 or 4 or 5 things and don't need a brand new operating system or a brand new computer. This is part of the reason why people go to Linux, because Microsoft tells you you can't upgrade to Windows 11. Linux will run on a potato. So people are switching to Linux, and guess what? Once people have switched to Linux, they have discovered that they like it way better than Windows. So what is Microsoft really doing by forcing people to go spend money on a new computer? Doesn't make any sense to me. Not every computer needs to be a Ferrari. Some people just need a reliable pickup truck. Microsoft would do good to learn that. Now we're getting further up the list because these are the things that I see all the time that drive people crazy. My number 2 is make Windows fast, clean, and modular again. When someone installs Windows on the computer, that's what they should get. Windows. No Teams, no trial apps, news widgets, suggested apps, Xbox components that they didn't ask for, cloud prompts, OneDrive, shopping suggestions, AI features, and background services. During setup, just ask, what kind of computer is this? Or what is this computer going to be used for? And then offer people choices. Option 1, a basic home computer. I do email, I surf the web, I do documents, printing photos, etc. Very basic stuff. Number 2, a gaming computer. So I need gaming services, Xbox features, graphic card optimization, all that stuff. Number 3, it's a business computer. So it should be focused more on security and encryption, remote access, productivity tools, things like that. Or it's a creator workstation for people like me. So it's going to have audio and video tools and different color management programs and video editors, storage tools, performance enhancements, things like that that are actually going to be beneficial to a creator. Or how about my favorite, an absolute minimal install, just Windows, nothing else. Linux users have had this flexibility for years, which is why people love Linux so much. And honestly, I don't blame them. They install Linux and they get basically a bare bones version of Linux. Now, there are different distros that do exactly what I just said. Some are productivity based, some are more for creators, some are, there's a whole handful of different distros that do different things. But the core Linux operating system is just Linux, just like Windows could be just Windows. Windows doesn't need to become Linux because it never will, but it could learn a few things from Linux and from Linux fans across the world who have turned their backs on Microsoft and will never look back. There's a reason for that. What I'm getting at is the average home user should not have to de-bloat a brand new computer just to sit down and use it. I've actually had people that have a 3 or 4 or 5-year-old computer go buy a new Windows 11 machine and say, this one is actually slower than my old one. Part of that is because of all the crap that gets loaded when you install Windows. Microsoft, seriously, just give us a clean install option. No bloatware, no suggested this, that, and the other. You're going to make a ton of money off of people regardless. Don't force it down everyone's throats. Give us a clean operating system. Not clean-ish, not clean except these 19 Microsoft things. Clean. That would instantly make Windows feel faster, safer, more secure, and would go a long way towards people's opinion of Microsoft. So if you made it this far, congratulations. Now we're going to talk about the number 1 thing that I would do if I could completely redesign Windows. Number 1 is make Windows respect the owner. It's as simple as that. Respect the person who owns that computer. Respect the person who is going to use that computer. Let's talk about the ways that Microsoft disrespects their users. Ads in the start menu, that's a respect problem. Forced restarts, hidden privacy settings, pushing Microsoft accounts, changing defaults after updates, burying settings all over the place, installing extra apps that you didn't ask for, abandoning working hardware. These are all respect problems. The core issue is that your computer, after a while, begins to feel like it belongs to Microsoft, not to you. And that's wrong. That's because Microsoft does not respect the user. And honestly, that is completely backwards. When I buy a PC, I should be the owner of that computer. Microsoft can recommend, they can warn, they can explain, they can offer services, but they should not nag, trick, force, hide, reset, promote, or override what I, as the user, want. Make Windows an operating system again. A good operating system should be boring in the best possible way. It should start fast. It should stay out of your way. It should protect your data. It should respect my choices. It should update accordingly. It should recover easily. It should run my programs and just let me use my computer. That's what I think would make Windows great again. No more AI buttons, no more cloud integration, No more redesigned settings. No more recommended content. Respect. Simple respect. Because the best version of Windows isn't the version that does the most. It's the version that lets the user do the most. So I want to hear from you. What's the number one thing on your list? Would you want fewer ads, better updates, a real easy to use backup, a local account option, simple installs? Or are you at the point where you're saying, yeah, this is exactly why I'm switching to Linux? I get that. So drop your top Windows complaint down in the comment. I would like to read all of those because I may turn some of those viewer comments into future videos. My name is Scott Merrill. This is Ask Your Computer Guy. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.